Thanks for listening to Elko Live today. Today's guest is Clint Mothershed. He's our Fire Mitigation, Education, and Fire Trespass Investigation Specialist from Elko District BLM. And today's program, Clint, as we're kind of rolling into summer vacation, is all about wildfire season here in Elko County. Is that right?
Yes, Lori, it is. It's obviously school's out for the summer and fire season's in full effect. So we're already starting to see some human-caused fires. Some centered around debris burning, some just vehicle maintenance. It's that time of year. If people look out their window, they can see that the grass is getting drier. It's maxed out probably height-wise, but now it's just going to be fuel moisture-wise. It's going to continue to dry for the next, I'd say, 30 days, and then we'll probably be off to the races, and not in a good way.
I did see some lightning dancing over the Ruby Mountains, just Sunday night. So, we're already getting some lightning in the area, too. Comes with thunderstorms.
Yeah, if you noticed, yesterday evening was somewhat humid, and there was some lightning that we ended up getting over east of the Rubies, and luckily we didn't get any fires out of that. But it's only probably a matter of time for us. As far as the weather goes for the foreseeable future, our meteorologists that we have internally, they kind of do an outlook for up to 4 months, and basically for the next 4 months they're saying that given the fuel loading that we're going to have, we are going to be probably fairly busy. So as far as La Nina goes and El Nino, we're going to be in the neutral conditions, which for us is good and bad. It just kind of means that we could be influenced off the Pacific coast, as well as the monsoonal influence can start impacting us sometime in July. But right now, their forecasting models are showing the monsoons being a little bit weaker. So what that means is when a monsoonal push comes, we might not get those deluges as far as rain goes. But what we will see is enough upper atmospheric moisture to create thunderstorms, possibly on the drier side. So all that means is we'll get clouds and they'll have lightning, and we'll unfortunately get fires. So they're also saying, our meteorologists, that is, this is comparable to 2005 and 2007 seasons, which those were 3 seasons, probably 3 of the largest back-to-back years that we had, and we burned over 2 million acres over those 3 summers. It was pretty rough.
So I know we're going to talk about obviously things that people need to do, should be doing. It's never too late to create defensible space until a fire's pretty much destroyed your property or your home. But there's a lot of conversation, Clint, about going into fire season. Do we have enough resources? Do we have the firefighters? Do we have, personnel and equipment?
Yeah, Lori, we do. We're sitting pretty good. We're sitting actually better than we have the last few years. Elko County has a vast number of resources, and it's not just their full-time employees. They also manage and coordinate with all the volunteer fire departments, which there's quite a few throughout Elko County, and those are very active departments. Those individuals have to go through the same educational standards that we do as far as being firefighters. So as far as being able to work side by side with them, there's no issue. They're a great group of people. And I'd say that we'll see how it goes throughout the summer. You should expect to see more resources coming in at some point. Once the sky gets filled with more smoke, we'll start bringing stuff in. You'll see more fire trucks from out of the area driving around, and we try to pre-position resources if we can. And we are located right in the middle. Elko is of our geographic area, which is Nevada, Utah, and the southern 2/3 of Idaho. So our logistical hub, they like to keg resources up here just because it's kind of in the center. Resources can go in any direction and get to where they need to be in about the same amount of time. And we do have a facility out at NYTC where we can stage them out at by NYTC, in NYTC, and the tree farm out there by the Nevada Division of Forestry office. So we got places to keep them, and it's not a bad thing to have those in our back pocket. We should probably see an increase in more aviation resources too at some point at the Elko Airport as well.
Clint, it never hurts to remind people that this is an operation in the same sense that, even a military operation. I mean, we have air support, so we have tankers. There's a heli-tac crew. We've had a heli-tac staged here in Elko, based in Elko, Ruby Mountain Hot Shots, right?
Yeah, we have
You have mechanics, cooks, right?
Oh, yeah. There's all the logistical stuff. We've got people that have to inspect all the equipment when they come in before they go out onto fires. We'll get private entities that are contractors that come in that are qualified to work alongside of us too, that fulfill some pretty critical needs for us at times when it's not looking good for the entire West Coast. I should probably say that as far as getting resources. The Pacific Northwest is looking under the same kind of critical thresholds we're looking at, and this is predicted right now to go through September. Above average fire growth is what they're basically telling us. So we don't know how much we're going to get resource-wise, but we know we'll eventually see some in here. They nationally, when we have different regions burning, they do prioritize timber over rangelands. It's just the basic value of acre here versus acre in the forest, which obviously us around here, we don't agree with that due to the fact that we understand that those acres out here, they burn a lot quicker, and that's people's livelihoods, that's livestock. The grazing allotments, and we know what ties into that and how that can impact our local economy and just local ranching families.
You brought up a couple of really important points talking to Clint Mothershed. He spent his entire career in fire here in the Elko district, but those values, as you described them, we have species issues, whether it's sage grouse or mule deer habitat, grazing, as you mentioned, huge economic concerns. And it sounds like what you were saying is, as in years past, we've been able to have contract help at the ready, but we were not able to sign up those contract, like bulldozers, people with heavy equipment. Or we're not doing that this time?
No, what I'm saying is that there will be competition for those resources. They're just like we have within the federal government, state, local governments, we have a limited number of resources that we have at our disposal. And when the contract resources, they can go anywhere in the United States to help suppress fires, and there's just going to be competition for those. And so certain things, certain resources might end up in the Pacific Northwest, as opposed to being down here, just based off of severity of fire. The homes that are threatened, fires in the Great Basin are in the rangeland anyway, the sage steppe, a little easier to suppress than some of these fires. And if the timber fuel moistures are critically low, those fires move fairly fast, extremely destructive, very hot, and there could be homes at risk. And so they do prioritize communities over everything. So that could be why those resources end up out of the area.
And it's probably out of your pay grade in all fairness, but I'm sure you're aware of the national conversations about creating one combined federal firefighting force. I mean, that's still in early stage. They're just talking, but any thoughts on that, Clint? Or is anybody in your industry talking about that? Or
yeah, we've heard the rumors about that, and the folks at the top have a little bit of time to come up with a game plan about merging all these firefighting entities. On one hand, it makes a lot of sense to us, just being on the same team. We're on the same team, although our fire trucks might be a different color already, so it might just make it easier if we're looking at cost savings to the taxpayer. Maybe it would eliminate some of the redundancies that the two federal agencies have at the top, and by merging those, it should save money. We'll see how that all plays out, but we don't see it as a bad thing.
I think the one thing that, because the BLM has had such a long firefighting tradition and history, as for decades, literally, Clint, but just as you just described, if you're with Forest Service, there are different values or different priorities. And I think that people in the livestock industry and on, hunters, people who use public lands, like you said, the range, that's the difference. We're in the Great Basin range, basin and range. That's really what it's described, right? The topography. I think we would worry that maybe a combined agency might not prioritize what we've got going here as much as the BLM has over the years.
Well, what we're hearing is it will be managed under the Department of the Interior right now, and that means that the Forest Service resources would actually become Department of Interior resources, or some it'll be more in line with the Department of Interior than the Department of Agriculture. So for us, most of the land here that's federal is BLM land already, and we do have the Humboldt-Taube, very beautiful country, as everybody knows. But as far as acreage, it's just not. There's not, when you compare it to the BLM land, it's just not as much. So we're hoping that this area will not be impacted too much by this. We might even see a little bit more out of it resource-wise.
Yeah, it's important to keep having the conversations and make sure that we're represented in those going forward. So interesting. So again, it's June. Fire restrictions are in place. Let's talk about those, Clint.
Okay, so the first round of fire restrictions, which are statewide, they are implemented by our state office, are in effect. You can learn more about those fire restrictions right now on nevadafireinfo.org. It's a great website. Highly recommend people visit that when they want to learn about fire restrictions. When you're going camping this summer and you want to know if you can have open source carbon-based fires, that's the website you want to go to. It has an interactive map. You can select on the area you want to go, and it's even broken down into, let's say you want to go up to Wild Horse. You can click on Wild Horse and find out what their fire restrictions, if there are any limitations right then. So then you don't need to bring your chainsaw, or you don't need to bring firewood, that you need to bring pressurized gas and your grill.
And these fire restrictions, again, is the BLM is issuing them, because we also talk with fire officials like your colleague, Matt Peterson, who's chief of Elko County Fire Protection District. Certainly our city fire chief, James Johnston, all of you collaborate, work closely together. These are BLM Nevada-wide fire restrictions that are already in place.
Yep, they're already in place. We will, probably later in June, we're going to have some more coming into place. And I have initiated the discussions with the Nevada Division of Forestry and Elko County Fire. We view using that unified front, one voice approach with fire restrictions, and as well as the United States Forest Service. But we use like that unified front, one voice approach with the fire restrictions, so we're all on the same page, and that it's a message that the public receives a little bit more clearly. So we're hoping that by the end of June, we're knowing that by the end of June, we will be into some sort of prohibitions out on private and public land. It'll probably be stage one. It does limit, fires to established fee-paying sites, and the reason being is that those sites have been cleared as far as fine fuels around the burn pits. It could get worse. I'm not going to say it won't. It could get worse where we're going to stage two, where that prohibits pretty much any fire in any campsite other than pressurized gas. So we'll see how it goes, but we're going to initially start with the stage one restrictions. It also limits people driving off-road, and I think people should be very aware of that this summer, that we could see an increase in those types of fires, people driving off-road. We have a thicker and taller grass crop, and so when you talk about vehicles and the points of the vehicles that are making contact with those fuels, we're talking exhaust, we're talking brake, anything on the axles. It's just the right conditions, those lower humidities, hot days, slight wind. It only takes 400 to 440 degrees for cellulose materials to catch on fire, and so all they do is they start smoldering. People drive through the brush, don't even realize they possibly started a fire, and get a couple canyons over and look back, and there's a fire where they just were, and they don't really think that it was them. They think they got lucky. So
hopefully they would call it in any case, Clint. But so what Clint's describing is, that's a fire by conduction. So some people are under the mistaken impression that, it's just a spark that causes fires. But no, you're talking about the actual heat from the appliance.
Yeah, I'm talking the heat.
It conducts the energy and ignites the grass on fire.
Yep.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
You could have the diesels with the regen that they do now with those exhausts get extremely hot, and if they're parked on dry grass, and your vehicle decides to regen, you could have issues there. So it's not just sparks like you're saying, and it could be conduction. So
shooting,
Yeah, shooting's a big one. We haven't really had that issue here, but in other parts of the states, they do. We do have good gun ranges, and so. We'll see. Expecting probably a fire or two out at our gun ranges this year, just given our grass crop, but once the area burns, that it's not going to burn again. So we're hoping maybe to be able to get ahead of that. I've had some conversations with folks about mowing around those gun sites and just to keep them safe. I think the Spring Creek gun range, I think the county already went out there and did some work, so that might already be taken care of, and we'll just be looking at the Elko gun range for the future.
Thanks, Clint. That is Clint Mothershed's job, really. He kind of looks for those issues and helpful, friendly guidance, just reminding people the consequences, as you go about. Because, sadly, we all get busy and there's a lot going on. This is a happy time of year, but it's also an important time and brings us to our next topic, Clint, and that's creating what's known as a defensible space or hardening your home and property.
Yep, and I have talked about this the last couple months with you, Lori, and this will probably be the last time I talk about it because beyond this month of June, I think it's going to be a little too late. I mean, you obviously, if you see smoke in the air and you want to clear around your home anytime in the summer is great, but it's just you're going to have warmer mornings. It's going to be tougher. If you decide to do it even in this month, you should probably do it early in the morning. Have a hose at your ready. Have a nozzle on the end of it. Have it turned on. Maybe a shovel nearby. And what you're really trying to do is you're trying to eliminate any fuels on the ground level. So mowing the grass, not just your green grass, but it's more of the dead annual grasses, the cheatgrass and that type of stuff on your property. And if you can, those green juniper bushes, they're ornamental. That's what they're for, but they're known as little green gas cans. And those things, once they receive a spark in the right conditions, they are highly flammable. So get those things away from the exterior homes. If you have them underneath like pine trees, kind of got a nice little landscaping thing with a bunch of, conifer type shrubs and trees, I would recommend just getting rid of them. They for some folks who don't like spiders, they they house spiders, they can house all sorts of things that people really don't like. And aside from that, they're pretty dangerous when you're talking your home's susceptibility to receiving sparks and embers and burning down.
Talking with Clint Mothershed from Elko District BLM about fire mitigation, the reality of fire season. It is here. We have had some fires. They've been caught quickly, but obviously lightning is coming up upon us as well. That season, as he was describing, with low monsoon, really no significant downpours or any kind of moisture, but the monsoon in that case can come with the dangerous lightning. And we'll talk more about how fires do get started. But as Clint was just describing, you create ember-resistant areas, lean, clean, and green zones, reduced fuel zones. There are different zones that you could educate yourself about, and there's a fantastic website to do that too.
Yes, you would just, to learn more, aside from this radio show, just go to livingwithfire.com. Or you can go to nevadafireinfo.org, the website I mentioned before, for your fire restriction information, and it'll link you over to this, and it explains step by step what you're looking for in those different zones of your home. And if you're planning on doing this, the importance of doing it is that when firefighters come into an area with multiple homes, and they say they only have 12 fire trucks, and there's 30 homes in there, they're probably going to select the homes that a little bit of work has been done around. Like the grass has been mowed around your propane tanks, and the firewood's been taken off your porch, and the grass has just been mowed. Your property's been maintained. Something that they actually feel that they can safely protect, as opposed to the house that has the cheatgrass growing right up to the side of the home, right up to the propane tank. It's just a more dangerous situation. And then another thing I'd recommend to folks that live in the rural areas, if you could, find something to mark your septic tanks. Our trucks weigh, 15 to 20 tons, and if they drive over your septic tanks, it's just a messy situation, and then we've disabled a fire suppression resource from being able to protect your homes and from folks being able to do their job. So that would be an easy thing to do and a worthwhile thing to do. And really, just mowing the grass on your property is huge. Again, have a charged hose, have a shovel at your ready, even have someone maybe as a lookout. One spark by hitting one rock on your property could start that fire.
So, Clint, something else we've talked about, because here is the responsibility of, the property owner and the homeowner to create that defensible space. And then there's been a lot of conversation, too, about evacuation, right? Evacuation plans. And I think you mentioned something really significant the last time you were on, is that a safe evacuation space might not be necessarily outside of your community, even if there is a fire, but it might be the nearest parking lot. Is that what you said about Spring Creek?
Oh, yeah, yeah. So really, it'd be anywhere, any area that's devoid of vegetation, essentially. But by mowing your own properties, you've created that space within here. But yes, parking lots, any large community area, the baseball fields, softball fields, areas like that where it's green, and fire really won't have a way to impact that area. It will really just burn around that stuff. So you will be dealing with a little bit of embers and heats if the winds are high, ember, heat, smoke, and that kind of stuff. But it wouldn't be life-threatening unless you had possibly a medical condition. So, those are all areas that you definitely could survive a wildfire.
So it is important as part of this wildfire season, right, Clint, to start talking to your family, your friends, your neighbors about evacuation plans?
Yeah, if you go to livingwithfire.com, I think they actually have a list. It's called a to-go bag, and its purpose is to discuss, for families to initiate the discussion of like what happens if we're not home and your kids are here since you're out of school and we have a fire. What are you going to do? And it actually has checklists for folks to prepare these to-go bags, and it's all the easy to get stuff that is cherished. Another thing to think about is your pets. What are you going to do with your pets if that happens? And that's why it's just really important to clear around your homes, mow all the vegetation, to trim your trees, just keep everything nice and clean, lean, green, and clean. I've been to some things. We've talked about this before, some seminars from people who lived in areas where they thought it would never happen to them, and then they lost everything in a wildfire, their pets, their family heirlooms, everything, their photos from their entire life, awards, all this stuff that they've accumulated over their life, they've earned, and it was all gone. And just to see the look on their face when they're telling the story, to just you sense the regret that they had, it's pretty heart-wrenching to actually experience.
Well, Clint, thank you for doing this job that you've been doing again for decades and helping keep the community in which you grew up in safe. And there's a fire tradition in your family, and I think it's important that people understand, your commitment to this. You're really nice about it, and you just want people to understand that there's an important responsibility when you live in a rural community, and even in the city of Elko, to keep it lean, clean, and green, because there are vacant lots or there are places where there are weeds in the city, and that could endanger neighborhoods.
Yeah, good. And I have folks in my neighborhood, and I live in the tree streets, that they don't take care of their front yards, and it doesn't look good aesthetically. But and
there's debris. And
there's debris.
It makes it tough to fight fire.
Yeah. It is for sure. Mm-hmm. But basically, we're kind of isolated as a community. In the Elko, Spring Creek area, and Elko County in general, where kind of owe it to each other to look out for the lands and for each other's livelihoods. Some have different backgrounds. Some are here for industry. Some have been here for generations, ranching. Some are just new here. But as well as I do, the family value that comes with living here, and folks that do live here and stay here, they see value in the lands and they actually enjoy living here. And so it's kind of just owe it to each other to just think about what we're doing this summer when we're out on the public lands, and be aware of driving off-road, the consequences that come with that. That's the big concern, I think, for us right now. It's just the grass crop that we have, and folks, recreating on roads that may be overgrown with grass, or deciding they want to make a new road and doing that kind of stuff. This might not be the summer to do that. It might be the summer to be a little bit more conservative and just think about what you're doing and what your actions can cause, because if we get into fire restrictions, they will limit off-road travel, and I will have to investigate that fire if it burns any BLM land. And when the Department of Justice and the U.S. Solicitor's Office gets involved, they don't look too kindly upon people that didn't pay attention and caused a devastating fire that the taxpayers' funds had to put out, and they will be seeking some sort of retribution financially.
And it is the season too, Clint. Fireworks are a big cause of inadvertent, unintentional fires. People think it's a part of the American celebration, but it's not allowed in the West. Personal fireworks are not allowed. Yeah,
I think other than the sovereign lands, tribal lands, they're prohibited. I think it's municipally within the city of Elko. I believe the state has statutes prohibiting fireworks. Obviously, federal lands, public lands are definitely prohibit the use of fireworks, and this is just the wrong fuel type for for that to happen. So, yes, we got 4th of July coming up. Folks need to be aware that fireworks are prohibited in Nevada. It's just a general rule of thumb. There are little gray areas here and there, but it's just better to know that you shouldn't be messing with those things at all. Spring Creek, they have their own fireworks show, and I think people like to sit in their driveways and have their own fireworks shows, and they just need to be aware of the consequences of starting a fire, because just because it's nighttime doesn't mean a fire won't start. And we have fire resources patrolling, but still, it's you will be held accountable, essentially, and that's just the end of it,
Yeah, that's the hard reality of it. It really is. And even in the city, folks will set off fireworks thinking, oh, I'm surrounded by pavement and streets. But we have all these tall, towering trees, and they're dry, and they've been, we've had these trees, some of them for, decades, and they get so dried out, and people don't realize you could set off a bottle rocket and spark a fire in the tree, right? So even in the tree streets. Yeah.
And those canopy fires is what we would call it. Those are the ones that, then you have debris falling on homes, burning debris falling on homes, and a very dangerous situation to suppress fire-wise. And if it's a high wind event, which I know that if we do have high winds, we won't be having fireworks anyway, but it's one of those situations where we hope to avoid it at all costs.
So as we're getting ready to wrap things up today, again, we've been talking with Clint Mothershed. He's our fire mitigation, education, fire trespass investigation specialist from the Elko District BLM. There are causes outside of lightning, as we mentioned. Unfortunately, there's not much we can do about Mother Nature's wrath when lightning strikes and ignites a fast-moving brush or wildland fire, except as everything Clint's been describing. Keep that property clean. Have a clearance around, that defensible space around your property. Have a place and a plan to evacuate. But there are obviously some human-caused fires. As we mentioned, fireworks, that's an obvious, but there are some other things that people may not be aware of.
Yes, so right now our biggest issue is debris burning. Folks are not following the established criteria for debris burning in Elko County, and they have to know that we have cameras on the mountaintops around. I don't know how many we have within Elko County, and they have an artificial intelligence attached to them. So those cameras have a 360-degree bird's eye view, and once they detect something that looks like smoke, it goes to a certain place, a facility where they actually analyze the images they're seeing, and then they send an email out to the fire suppression agency saying, hey, you might have a fire here. And what we're seeing right now is a bunch of people are burning their debris. They're trying to maybe create their defensible space, but they're not following the policies or the protocols. They're not getting burn permits. And it's basically pushing that big red button, and it's sending a response to a home that possibly doesn't need it. So debris burnings are a big one right now, but outside of debris burning, it's statewide, it's roadside. Obviously, we have a lot of interstates, a lot of state routes, wide open country, and cheatgrass is everywhere. So it's really centered around roadside. And folks, just if you have an old junker you like cruising around, there's nothing wrong with that, but just make sure it's running good. Like, it's got good brakes, the exhaust isn't rattling, it idles nice, and it doesn't surge and do all this other type of stuff that would make you think that the vehicle's not in proper running condition. Make sure you have good tires and that your brakes are in proper working condition. If you're towing a trailer, make sure that the chains are up off the ground so they're not creating sparks. It's a lot. And if you have a vehicle that breaks down and you need to work on it, make sure you clear all the debris around where you're working if you're starting to do some grinding and stuff like that, which I will tell you that the fire restrictions that will be put in place by the end of this month will prohibit grinding and metalworking on any of the public lands. So just be aware of that too. And the off-road travel, again, that's going to be a big one this year. I have a feeling there's going to be quite a few fires that could have been prevented if people would have just thought about the fun that they were having and the consequences of that fun.
Definitely, and the kind of activities and the environment in which you're working. So our colleague, Matt Peterson, again, chief of the Elko County Fire Protection District, would want us to mention that you go to Elko County Fire to get that burn permit in advance. It's super easy now.
Yep, and I just spoke with him, and he's saying after the 15th of this month, it's going to be day by day due to the conditions, the fuels conditions that we're seeing. So you might call in and want to do your debris burning, and it just might not be a no-burn day. But by the end of this month, he said that there will be no open burning until we receive significant precipitation sometime in the fall, which the modeling showing is probably not going to be till October. So clock's ticking, clean around your homes, get ready for fire season. And be safe. And if you want to learn more about it, go to nevadafireinfo.org or livingwithfire.com and learn about how to create that defensible space around your homes.
And then when you're out and about enjoying summer, seek out Clint and say hi. Say, hey, I heard you on the radio, Clint. Thank you for all the information, because you're going to be at several special events this summer.
Yeah, so the big one, I think, for the community is Silver State Stampede. It's the longest running rodeo in Nevada. And the rodeo board has done a really good job of bringing that rodeo back to its glory days. So what I mean by that is they've worked really hard. They've got larger purses. They're attracting larger personalities. It's just they're enhancing the event, and it's really hard work over the last 10 years or so this group has done. That's turned this rodeo into one of the top 50 PRCA rodeos in the nation. And it's just a great time. I think there's 3-day event, and so everybody should come out on June 20th through the 22nd, and on June 20th will be a community outreach event for us, where we'll have firefighters out front handing out the defensible space materials and talking to people, and giving kids stuff to just try to reinforce their behaviors to be more fire safe too. And then obviously we got the 4th of July stuff. When we spoke about fireworks, they're prohibited, people. That's just the bottom line. And we're going to have events. I think Spring Creek's got their Freedom Festival coming up, and they have their own fireworks show. So there'll be a parade out there. There'll be a parade in Elko. There'll be a parade in Carlin, Wells, Jackpot, Wendover. There's parades everywhere. So, come out and celebrate your country. But while you're celebrating your country, please do so safe. And then also 4th of July weekend, we have the National Bass Festival.
Clint Mothershed, our fire mitigation specialist, Elko BLM District, thank you so much for the time today. And we really hope that this message has reached people that need to hear it.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Thank you, Lori. I hope so.